Too old to rock and roll. Why don't you both stop it? Valerie's voice said on the phone. Well, that began it. Greg answered. He called me a baby. And you called him an old man. That wasn't nice. I didn't really mean it. He isn't very old, is he? Greg said. He remembered that Valerie was about 40 herself. No, and what about the piece from the newspaper about older men losing their hair? You put that up on the kitchen wall. You have got to stop it, Valerie said. We need someone here to stop us, Greg said quietly. I know, Valerie spoke softly now. Well, I will be there at 8 o'clock tonight. I will see you then, all right? Greg put the phone down and went into the kitchen. He looked at the piece from the newspaper about men losing their hair. Near it, on the wall, there was a piece of paper with Mom's writing on it. Perhaps it was the only thing of Mom's in the house now, and Dad took away all her things when she died. Dad still had a lot of hair. It was only a bit thin on the top of his head, and he did it differently now. It showed that he was getting better after Mom's death. At first he didn't want to do anything. Greg watched him in those first weeks. Dad got up, read the newspaper, cooked meals, went to walk, but he was dead inside. When he was at work, Dad was Stephen Barber, the optician. Perhaps there he smiled and talked and was more like a living person, but he wasn't like that at home. Things were getting better now because of Valerie. She was a friend of Mom's, really, and was waiting to see Mom when the unhappy policeman came to the house to tell them about the accident. She lived about 50 kilometers away and had a home to go back to. But the policeman wanted to take Dad and Greg to the hospital, and Dad turned to this stranger and said, "Please stay." So when they came back, she was there. At Christmas happened because of Valerie too. Greg said nothing about Christmas, but one day Valerie said angrily to Dad, "And what about Greg, Stevie? He isn't interested in Christmas," Dad answered tiredly. "Christmas was wonderful with Frances. Without her it is nothing. Well, Frances is dead, but you and Greg are alive. If Christmas with Frances was wonderful, it was because she loved it. Can't you keep alive something she loved? Can't you do it for her?" Later Greg said to Valerie, "Are you coming here for Christmas?" "I usually visit my mother and father," she replied, but Greg knew that Valerie must come. If Christmas doesn't happen this year, he thought, perhaps it will never happen again. "Tell me about Christmas with your mom, Greg," Valerie said, and Greg told her how he and his mother always put the decorations on the Christmas tree together. "I have got all things for the tree in my room," he said. "I hid them there when Dad took everything of Mom's away." "Well, we have got to be hard with him," Valerie said. "If we want to bring him back to life, we will have to be a bit unkind to him, wake him up a little." And so on Christmas Eve, just before Valerie arrived, Greg came downstairs with a box of decoration for the tree. His father looked old and tired. "What have you got there?" he said. "The decoration for the tree," Greg said. "What tree? We aren't having a tree. How could you?" "I want a tree," Greg said. "I'm sure that Mom wants Christmas to be happy for me." His father looked around slowly. "It's too late to get a tree now," he said. "Valerie's bringing it with her," Greg replied. "Shall I light the fire?" After Christmas, life was easier. Valerie came more often and she stayed for the weekend. They began to call the third bedroom Valerie's room. Slowly Dad was beginning to come back to life. He bought some new clothes too, and Greg was pleased about that. But perhaps the piece of about older men losing their hair was unkind, Greg thought. He took the piece of newspaper off the kitchen wall and wrote a note in its place. I have gone to band practice. Val phoned. She will be here at 8. Then he put the dinner to cook slowly while he was out. The table was ready with flowers on it and everything looked just right. Greg usually cooked the meals. He was good at it and he liked everything to be nice for his dad and Val. The band practice was at a friend's house and Greg began to go there 5 months after Mom's death. He just wanted to get out of the house sometimes, but he told Dad he was interested in music. Music, Dad said, or rock and roll. Rock and roll was in the 1950s, and Greg told him. It's rock music these days. After the practice that evening, Greg wanted to get home quickly. He wanted to hear happy voices and listen to the nice things that Valerie said about his cooking. So he said goodbye to his friends and hurried home. The light was on in the living room when he arrived, and for a minute he watched from outside. Dad was standing alone in the room with his back to the window, but Valerie's car was outside the house. Then Valerie came into the living room and his father walked over to her with his arms open. Greg went round to the back door very slowly. He wanted to give them more time together. He felt very pleased that his plan was going well. He liked Valerie a lot, and often told Dad that he liked her. There was no hurry, but if one day Dad and Valerie, he would never forget Mom, of course. Sometimes he thought that he could see her in the house of the garden, but he knew that Valerie understood this. When Greg went in, they were sitting down again. There were a lot of flowers in the room, red, pink, orange, and yellow. Valerie brought them, Dad said, smiling. Greg remembered. Valerie's beautiful violet garden with its bright flowers. It was warm there, even in March. Did Valerie want to leave all that? He looked at Dad. Something was different. Dad's clothes were new and he was wearing jeans. His father was wearing jeans and he was smiling. His father was Stephen Barber again. He was the bright and happy man who married Mom. At dinner, Dad tried hard to please Valerie. In the old days, Dad didn't have to try to please women. They all loved him. The two girls who worked with him at the opticals loved him too. Greg asked his mother about this once, but she wasn't unhappy about it. She just laughed. Oh yes, they both love him, she said. What about you? Greg asked angrily. Oh, they think I don't understand him. I am sure they will be happy if I fall under a bus. But it wasn't a bus. She was driving her car when the accident happened. How did the two men in the opticals feel now? They were both young and beautiful. Valerie wasn't young or beautiful, but she was just right. When he went up to bed that night, Greg left his door open and he could hear Dad and Valerie downstairs. They were talking and laughing together for hours. It was very late when they came to bed. So Dad was alive again. The next week he bought more clothes for himself and for Greg. His new clothes were much more fashionable than his old ones. And at the weekend he and Valerie went out on Saturday and Sunday. Greg watched from his bedroom window. When they were getting into the car, Dad ran to open the door for Valerie. He no longer looked like a tired old man. Greg thought. In his new clothes he looked slim and young. On Wednesday Dad came home early and said he was going to a party. It's Yonne at the shop, he said. She is going to get married. A party, Greg said. You won't like the music or dancing. Yonne is much younger than you, and you don't like my music. Is Valerie going? Valerie, of course not. I'm sure she's got better things to do. Greg thought back to the old days. Dad and Mom often went to quiet dinner parties with friends, but never to a party with dancing with people who were 20 years younger. Greg didn't like it. It was after midnight when Dad came home. Valerie came as usual on Friday. Greg cooked the dinner and then he went into the kitchen to get some drinks ready for them. But when Valerie arrived, Dad didn't hurry down to open the door as usual, and Greg had to go himself. He took Valerie's bags from her and they went into the front room. Just then Greg heard Dad put the phone down in the bedroom upstairs. After a while Dad came downstairs and went into the front room. Greg gave him some time alone with Valerie before he took the drinks in, but when he went in they were just sitting and talking. I was just saying that I won't be here tomorrow. Dad said, well, not until the evening. I have to go to the shop. Sue phoned to say she can't come in to walk. But later Greg remembered the sound of the phone upstairs. Nobody rang earlier, he thought. Dad was making a call, not answering one. On Saturday morning Valerie said, you are cooking us a nice dinner tonight, Greg, so I will make lunch today. Greg watched her for a minute while she sat at the kitchen table cutting up apples. It was a comfortable, friendly picture, he thought. Then he ran upstairs to his father's bedroom, closed the door, and phoned the opticians. Can I speak to Mr. Barber, please? He asked. I'm afraid he is not in today, the girl answered. Can I help you? No, it's nothing important, thank you, Greg said. But it was important, it was. On Sunday evening Valerie said, see you next week. She was talking to Greg, but it was Dad who answered. I am not sure, can I phone you? Yes, of course. Valerie was a little surprised. Greg was very surprised and at the same time not surprised at all. What is happening next week then? He said after Valerie left. Where will we be? I don't know. Dad wasn't looking at him. Well, perhaps I won't be here next weekend, but I want to see Valerie next weekend. Why don't you go there then? I will ask her if you like. Perhaps she is bored with coming here every week. No, she isn't. Look, Dad said, Valerie is done a lot for us. She is a good friend, but well, she is only a friend, but I thought you and her, no. Later Greg told his friend Toby about it. Well, your dad's free now, Toby said. He's come alive again after your mom's death and he wants to start again. And Valerie is too old for him. They're the same age, I asked her. Yes, but she looks older than him. I have seen her. He doesn't want people to see him with someone like that. He can get someone better. The someone that Dad got was 24 and she looked 18. Oh, you are clever, she said to Greg when he cooked the dinner that Friday evening. I can't cook anything. Why don't you learn? Greg said coldly. I won't always be here, and neither will you, he said silently to himself.